Yo, what it is, you know what it is. It's your man, King Musa. Welcome to the Hub Hero, the podcast dedicated to exploring the 7 dimensions of wellness and how they impact your life here at Stephen F. Austin State University. I'm your host, King Musa, and today we'll be diving into financial wellness. In this episode, we'll explore the importance of managing your financial resources effectively and reducing financial stress. I'll be speaking to your Dean of Students, Dr. Andrew Dees, to uncover valuable resources and strategies to achieving financial success at SFA. We'll be diving into practical tips for budgeting, managing debt, and planning for your financial future. Let's dive in. Joining me now is Dr. Andrew Dees, the Dean of Students. Welcome, Dr. Dees.
Thank you, Musa.
There we go.
Got it that time.
There we go.
Again.
All right. Quick question.
Yes.
What was the last thing you spent a lot of money on?
A computer.
Really? What kind of computer?
I have a desktop at home for when I was writing my dissertation.
Is it like an iMac?
No. I have common sense. I don't get Apple like that, except my phone. Don't look at the phone. No, I got a Dell. I had to get it upgraded because I can't stand waiting for it to load and waiting for websites to load. So I had to get the bougie memory in it.
But why didn't you get an iMac?
Because I'm not a designer or creative person.
But it has
And
so
they're
many.
terrible.
You have AirDrop. You have the fact
I
that
have AirDrop on my phone.
Yes, but you can send it to the computer, and then you can like copy something from one device and send it to the other device.
Don't care.
Bro, there's so many different. All right.
Don't care.
All right.
They're not worth it. Like if I was creative like you, then it would be worth it. But I use a computer to send emails. I don't need to spend $8 million on that.
Fair. Can't argue with that. So,
That was whack.
what is financial wellness and why is it crucial for students?
Financial wellness is exactly what good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Financial wellness, Musa, is exactly what you said, managing your finances. Coming to college, you're going to have different funding streams. You've got your financial aid. Maybe parents give you the old credit card for emergency situations. But really, it's how you manage that and how you budget, how you plan. Not having the mindset that is, as long as you have checks, you have money, because then you drop it and it bounces up and hits you in the face. But also the big thing, and one of the biggest mistakes I made was, not applying for that credit card because they give you a free T-shirt.
Right.
Your credit is something that will follow you around the rest of your life. And so making better decisions when it comes to that, but also not taking out $1 billion in student loans just because it's free money.
I was about to say, I think you just hit it right there.
That was the whole podcast right there. We're done.
I'm saying, because I don't know, Uncle Sam's my favorite uncle. And when we get those refund checks, I don't think a single student know how to spend that refund check right.
Well, and that's in theory, you are supposed to use that through the entire semester.
Okay.
And not blow it on
An iMac.
Right, exactly. But it's, there's research out there that shows if you come from an underclass environment growing up, you get money and then you spend it right away.
Right.
So there's a lack of that money management. And that's not, you can't generalize that to everybody, but I think that's something that we as educators need to do better on is how to manage your credit, how, get a credit card. Building credit is good.
Right.
But when you're maxing your credit cards out all the time because you're going to Wingstop, that's not the most financially stable thing to do.
Why should students prioritize their financial well-being during their college years?
Your financial wellness will follow you the rest of your life. So if you tank your credit when you're 19 years old, it's going to follow you the rest of your life. I think it's things fall off your credit 7 years after it happens. But that's a long time. Like, when you're trying to buy a car.
Right.
Even cell phones, there's your credit. And I don't necessarily agree with how we here in America do that.
Right.
Because I'm going to go down a rabbit hole, buying a house. So, it's, buying a house should be an ideal goal for everybody.
Right.
But because your credit's not good enough, I'm going to make you pay higher in rent than what you would be paying on a mortgage. So it doesn't make sense to me. And I'm not a finance expert. There's tons of people who are smarter than me. But I think, and that's not anything that's going to change in our life, in our lifetimes. But making good financial decisions now is what is so important. Like your emotional health, your physical health, yeah, that'll follow you around, but
Right.
that's fixable.
Quicker.
Yes. And, critical financial decisions that you make and then fail is something that's going to not get fixed easily.
Okay. Well, see, the thing that kind of made me think about it was if you didn't grow up with your parents teaching you money or even teaching you about credit or setting it up, some students come to college without even having credit at all. And then the first time to take out their loan, that's when their credit journey starts.
Well, and is that taught anywhere in high school what that is? It's, we learned, and I think I've gone off on this before here too. We learned that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell.
Right.
But we don't teach you taxes. I put all my tax stuff into a little website.
H&R Block.
Yes. And, we don't teach you about that. We don't teach like stocks and bonds. Couldn't tell you. I have my retirement in it, but what it is, I'm 43 years old, 3 degrees, don't understand it at all.
Wow.
We don't teach about health insurance. We don't teach about life insurance. Students now don't know how to write a check. Literally, I've had to teach a student how to write a check.
Okay.
Some apartment complexes, like to do your security deposit, it has to be a check.
You can't just do a money order?
Some, depending, yes, but you still have to know how to fill out a money order.
Well, it's at Walmart. They'll tell you at the desk. Who benefits the most from actively focusing on financial wellness during their academic journey?
Well, obviously the student, but this isn't also something that you can avoid. Like as a professional avoider, and what I did certainly in undergrad, I'm going to take these loans out, worry about it later.
Right.
Granted, I had to take loans out anyway to get through my undergraduate degree, which I'm totally fine with because those are my receipts hanging on the wall. But did I need to take as many loans out? No.
Right.
Am I still paying on them? Yes, because the man always gets his money. And that's something that you could not pay them. You could not pay your credit card bill. You could not pay your tuition bill. Eventually, it's going to go to collections.
Right.
And then when you try to go get that new cell phone, you're not going to get it because everybody runs your credit. Even soft hits on your credit, everybody does it.
Yeah.
So the student, it has to be a focus, and it's not. There's so much else going on, and maybe more now with the FAFSA issues. Some folks, affordability is a big thing, as it should be, and we also, as administrators, have to be mindful of that. There's a lot of social mobility that comes with that, and the more financial barriers we put in place with students, we're prohibiting them or preventing them from being successful.
So I have an old roommate that I had my freshman year, and right now he's trying to figure out this allocating, loans and everything else like that because his parents made too much for him to get grants and certain things, right? So do you feel like it still affects the parents and everything when it comes to financial?
Absolutely. I mean, because take that situation. The government has decided that his parents make too much money. Thus, he's not eligible for free money. That implies that his parents are giving him that money,
right?
Writing him that check. And sometimes that is the case. Yes, sometimes it's not.
Right.
So, he is being punished because, and I don't even know what the threshold is anymore, but even like when I was growing up, my mom made $35,000 a year, and there was some aid I was not eligible for. $35,000.
That's what I'm saying.
Granted, this was in the early 2000s, but even $35,000 now is nothing. And so it's, but when you look at our scholarship programs that we have, like Purple Promise, if your parents are making under $80,000, you get free tuition. Like you can go here, you get scholarships to cover your tuition. But
Purple Promise.
Purple Promise, check it out. It was.
Oh, we gonna find out about that.
It was maybe 50,000 votes since we went into the system and got bumped up to 80.
What?
And that's a real thing. Like a lot of community colleges are moving towards free tuition. There are some 4-year institutions. They have a massive endowment to be able to cover that. Eventually, societally, we should get to that point. It's just not in our lifetime.
Okay. That makes sense. When is the ideal time for students to start managing their finances and start planning for their future?
In high school.
In high school.
And that goes back to you have to teach folks how to do stuff like real world. And granted, I haven't been in high school a very long time, but practical real world skills.
Right.
Like this is your checking account. This is a savings account. This is an IRA. Why is it good to have a savings account that's going to earn you a higher interest rate.
Mm-hmm.
So really just because that's not intuitive. Even maybe if you were coming from a more affluent family, but
Right.
when we look at your standard middle class to lower class, they may never have had a checking account. I mean, I think everybody does, like a savings account. They may never have had a savings account. So, how do you manage that? And yeah, you've got all of this money sitting over there.
Right.
But what if your car breaks down? Cars aren't cheap. I loved it when I lived in Philly. I got rid of my car. I hate having a car.
Yeah.
But it's that rainy day fund. And, I was talking with a friend of mine. Her spouse got really sick and their hospital bills are through the roof. They don't have the money to pay for it. So it's those one-time things. I mean, I had my appendix out a couple of years ago. Had I not had insurance, it would have cost me $95,000. And I was in the hospital for an hour and a half.
See, those sound like those real life conversations that you don't end up having with the people that you love. You end up having the people that you meet or you get to know and stuff. I remember I had a conversation with an officer about a retirement plan, right? And he was like, bro, like you're 22 right now. You should be working on a retirement plan. And that changed my whole perspective when it came to the degree I was pursuing, to the career I was going into, just because of paying attention to high risk, low security and everything else like that, or, high security, low risk, like teachers, doctors, things like that, right? Things that will actually build that retirement plan and everything. And then it just started opening up all these understanding that you need to have, like you said, the checking account, the bank account, like all of that stuff.
Well, and it's an economics conversation. That was one of the classes I hated the most. But when you're looking at your retirement, you're looking at how the economy works. It's, I don't know how much med school costs, but it costs a lot.
Right.
So it's an economical conversation. And, it's like the value of a college degree. That's an economical conversation. And has the value of a degree gone down? No. When you are looking at supply and demand, is the demand as great as it was before? No. Like MBAs, this was several years ago. Everybody and their mother had an MBA. So the value of the MBA went down because the market was saturated with it. And so, I think we've talked about it. My brother didn't go to college. He makes more than I do and has traveled all over the world. So some people coming to college is if you want to be a doctor, you got to go to college. Like that's how it is. If you want to be a police officer, you don't have to go to college. It'll get you more money if you do. So there are some professions. And so the value of a college degree is still there. It's just not the default anymore. Like when I was coming through high school, I was going to college. That's what you were doing.
Yeah.
It wasn't a conversation. It was a matter of where. And now that's not the conversation anymore. When you've got folks that have trade skills that are in some aspects so much more valuable than the skills that I have.
Right.
They don't need that college degree because that college degree likely comes with some kind of debt. Unless you're lucky enough to not have to accrue that. I'm proud of the debt because it's my debt and I'm eventually going to pay it off.
Yeah.
But I've got those 3 receipts that hang on my wall that I'm incredibly proud of.
Okay. Nothing wrong with that. Where can students find comprehensive financial resources and support services on campus?
That's a complicated question. There is a program in College of Business that I can't remember the name of, but it is some sort of financial management or financial planning thing. Financial aid, when you accept financial aid, there is some I don't want to say course. There's a module that you have to do. I think we as an institution, and this is every place I've worked, we've got to do better about that. It's because they're not learning it when they get here. So I think we could infuse it into SFAS 1101, which is our first year experience class. But just something like we're not set up like that. Financial aid can help,
right?
But that's really not their role. We've got student business services. That's not really their role. So I think when we are looking at our retention rates, those in student affairs and academic affairs have to look at how we are including the financial wellness piece when we're talking with students. I've worked with a lot of students that have accrued so much debt, and because they're the one student that I'm thinking of had over 150 attempted hours, and it only earned like 50 of them.
Yeah.
And so you're getting that excessive credit fee. Some of them were 3P tuition, and he was eventually going to run out of money, like financial aid.
Right.
So then the question or the conversation is, what are you doing here?
Right.
Like you're
Right.
going to run out of money, and then you have accrued all of this debt. You can't afford to come without all of that aid. Your aid is going to stop at 160. What are you doing here? And that's a hard, as an educator, that's a hard conversation, but it's also the conversation that needs to happen.
Right.
Because unless you're going to win the lottery, you're going to get to a point where you will have to pay out of pocket for everything with 3P tuition, with excessive credit, which is $200 per credit. It's a lot of money. And to what end?
See, they know how to get the money out of you, but they don't know how to let you show you how to keep it.
I don't think we need to demonize that because there's reasons for that. The excessive credit fee, there's a reason for that.
Right.
That means you've taken way too many. And if you're just bebopping around with how they've locked financial aid down now, before, you could take pretty much any class.
Right.
Now, if it's not in your degree plan, financial aid isn't going to cover it. So, yeah, it stings, but there's reasons. And 3P tuition, come on, boo, I need you to be able to study and go to class.
That makes sense, though. I can agree with that. See, but here's where I'm struggling with, right? When I first thought about the 7 dimensions of wellness and how I need to fix it, right? There wasn't a lot of resources I could find, but then we do have the banker on campus and the student center and everything. And I was like, okay, maybe I need to talk to her because you're going to get a job when you come to college some way, somehow, or if you end up getting a job. But most people end up getting a job. But after that, you're really just spending it on yourself and just your needs and not as much as you actually need. You're just using it day to day, week to week. And so kind of understanding where do I start is kind of my question right now. And I've emailed many people about, just talking about the financial aspect. And it's like, we don't know. You got to go to the hub,
Well, I mean, it's a concept of zero-based budgeting.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's building up, what your expenses are going to be. Your car note, gas, cell phone bill. So then you put that in and then you know how much you're going to spend versus, okay, I have $200. Let me figure out how to spend it.
Right.
But sticking to a budget's hard. Even for adults, it's hard. And recognizing that there's some things you have to go without. I would love a new car. I don't need a new car.
Right.
I hate my car.
So I would say, how important is it for students to actually get a job when they come to college?
That's going to be dependent upon the person. I worked campus rec, and then I was an RA.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't have stayed in undergrad if I wasn't an RA because I got my room and board covered.
Right.
I made that decision. That came at a cost of, time and dealing with students at 2:00 in the morning.
Right.
But look at where I am now. Had I not gotten that RA position, had I not been in that financial need.
Right.
So everything happens for a reason and everything aligns that because we grew up and sometimes not having food on the table, that led me to become an RA. And now look at where I am now.
Right.
3 degrees, I like to think relatively successful. But I think everybody should get a job. It's good experience. Different on-campus jobs are going to offer you different experiences. I'm partial to campus rec because that's where I started.
Right.
You're going to learn a lot of stuff in campus rec. They pay a little bit more, but then you can also go work at Chipotle and make like $15 an hour.
Yeah.
We can't compete with that. But you're also not, I love me some Chipotle, but the experience you would get first aid, CPR, managing folks in campus rec is a lot different than slapping a burrito together.
I can give you that.
But it's money. And if you need money, then who cares if you're learning all of those skills?
Yes, sir. How can students take proactive steps to improve their financial wellness and develop healthy financial habits?
Don't avoid it.
Okay.
If you've got $10, then you've got $10. I call that the Sharon K.D. School of Economics. That's my mother. You only have so much money.
Yeah.
And going over, you go over 1 month, but then you got to come under the next month.
Mm-hmm.
And that, we're talking about maturity. That takes maturity. You may want to go out, but you don't have money. But also, you can do a lot of stuff and it not cost anything.
Right.
I think that's another misconception. And we're not a big party school as much as in the past, but you can do a lot of stuff and it costs a very small amount of money. Eating out will eat your budget away.
Right.
You live on campus, unless you're in Village 3, you have to have a meal plan. Use your meal plan. Cook food at home. I'm not as bad as I used to be. But yeah, eating out is cool. The food's usually pretty good. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to clean it.
Yeah.
But you go have one meal at Chili's, you could probably have had 3, 4, 5 at home.
Right. Okay. Well, so I guess my next question would be the job fairs. Now, I know Campus Rec does a great job when it comes to the job fairs. What about these other job fairs on campus? Like, how does a student actually recognize those job fairs, or even different ways to find a job on campus?
So there's part-time career fair that'll happen at the beginning of at least the fall, and I think the spring as well. That's going to be anything on campus. That's in the Dean of Students office, in parking, like all of those. But if a student wants to find a job, they're always on the HR page, careers.sfasu.edu, because you're going to have to apply, they interview, and then get put through the whole process.
Okay.
Social media is a good one to check. ARC, like if you're really good at a biology, ARC is going to start paying their tutors more with an infusion of money. So they're going to bump them up to, I think, $10 an hour for tutoring. So check that out. I would have been a horrible tutor. Campus Rec pays more than most folks do on campus. But it's also like, what is your passion? Like, what do you think you might want to do in life?
Right. Okay. So take advantage of those opportunities. Do you have any other advice for financial wellness?
Don't get the credit card just because they're giving you a free T-shirt.
Really?
Come to the Dean of Students office and you can get a free one. Not now, because we're out. Because orientation cleaned us out. But next week we'll have more of these in. So come get a free T-shirt somewhere else.
Okay, I'm with that. Well, that wraps up today's episode. Thank you, Dr. Dees, for sharing your insight on financial wellness.
You're welcome. I'll be here all week. Tip your
and
shoulder.
how students can manage their financial efficiency.
You're welcome.
That concludes today's episode of The Hub Hero. Remember, financial wellness is a key part of your overall success. Utilize the resources available to you at SFA and take control of your financial future. Subscribe to our podcast for more insight into the dimensions of wellness and your weekly dose of wellness tips and advice. Connect with us on social media to share your thoughts and stay engaged with SFA's community. Until next time, manage your finances and work hard.